This crowd rises to its feet. Vaccaro slammed it home. Garland left wing, free ball. Perfect! Garland front of the lane, lob to Mobley. Pow! And Allen blocked the shot at the rim. Pow! With the left hand and a foul.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cast Media family. I'm your host, Justin Roan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo TV. Watch over 100 channels of live sports and TV for half the cost of cable. There's no contract and no commitment. Try it for free at FuboTV.com. The long wait is finally over. We're going to have Cleveland Cavaliers basketball again. 3 days off. I didn't even know that this was allowed. I'm excited. I miss this team, and I could not be more excited for this episode of the podcast because this pod is being released on the 6-year anniversary of the Chase Down Podcast. 6 years with this guy, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, bud. It's been a short 6 years, which I think is the nicest thing I can say.
You don't hate me yet.
No,
That's a very good thing.
It feels like I cannot believe it's been 6 years. So that tells you something.
You want to have your mind blown a little further?
Of
our
course.
guest today, Kelsey Russo of The Athletic, made her first podcast appearance on October 6th, 2019. I was surprised to know that it was that long ago. Kelsey, welcome back to the podcast. How you doing?
Hi, guys. Yeah, it's good to be back.
That is unbelievable. There's no way you've been working the beat that long.
Right? I know. When I realize how long it's been, I'm like, okay, that flew by way too fast. It's just crazy.
I was guessing like maybe 2020. I was like, yeah, that probably would be right. And then I looked it up, and sure enough, 2019, the Cavs starting lineup at that time was Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, Jetty Osman, Kevin Love, and Tristan Thompson. We had a trade for Andre Drummond that season. John Beilein was the coach. COVID happened that year. Like it's insane, and it actually ties into a great question that a member of our Discord actually had for you. Which is, how much has this job changed for you since that time? Because there's been so many changes to the team, roster construction, who's coaching, and obviously COVID, and just a whole lot of factors that got us to where we're at now. How much of a change has that been for you on the beat?
Oh my gosh, so much change. I mean, I really think about that first year, like you said, kind of all those things that happened. And then for COVID to hit and then the season to be shut down just kind of changed everything. But we've also seen this, the Cavs at that time had won 19 games, was it? 19 games, I think.
Yeah.
And now we're at 45 and it's just kind of they're in a totally different place. And so it's been cool to see this team grow and kind of through the rebuild. And it's kind of been cool for me to go along with the ride as they have grown and taken the steps of the rebuild. It's also changed because I'm more on the road now, which is awesome. Obviously with COVID and everything that was affected, but now I'm back on the road. So I travel like wherever the team is on the road, especially now down the stretch with these games really mattering for this playoff push and kind of for seeding and all of these things. And I've kind of also seen a shift as well in my coverage, because when I first started, it was the rebuild. This is the steps they were taking. This is all part of the process. And now it's kind of looking back like, okay, this is where they were, and now we're all the steps they've taken to get there. And now that the games really do matter because of a playoff push and we're not kind of allowing more so that space to grow. They've had that time to grow, and now they're putting it all into place. So it's kind of been a lot of evolution, I would say, over 3.5 years, 4 years, whatever it's been, of just kind of where this team's been. And then personally too, just kind of like my focus. So, but it's been really cool to see this change and this process for them and kind of see the rebuild through for the most part. Do
you feel like it's a little bit easier to do your job with a happier
100%.
Organization?
Yes.
Like you're not pulling teeth to get people to talk to you when you're asking them fun stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. They like to talk now, because they're winning. That's exciting. But I think also too, like a lot of it has grown because I feel like since I have been around through the tough times, there's kind of that rapport there of like, okay, she saw this when we were struggling and we're there, and now we're here. But it is a lot easier. They like to talk when they're winning, so it makes it fun.
I have to imagine that just the increase in stability makes a big difference too, right? Because the Cavs at that time, right, like you're taking as many swings as possible. You're trying to make all these moves. You bring in good role players, but then there's an opportunity to flip them for draft picks that can help down the road. And I mean, it's always been fun for us from a coverage standpoint to talk about the Cavs, because even when they're not good, they were always making like changes, right? There was so much, the roster was in flux. There was a trade almost every transaction window. And now we're kind of at this point of stability where, you know, last year, both Kobe Altman had the extension as president of basketball operations. JB Bickerstaff got an extension. We have a core in place. We're starting to find out which role guys are going to be here for the long term. Does that kind of help from a relationship building standpoint and kind of getting to know like what buttons to push and kind of what angles or questions to ask?
100%. Just because you get to see them on a day-to-day basis. You know, I'm around them basically almost every day or in some capacity, you know, so through that just interactions, you see them at practice, you see them pregame, postgame, in the locker room, etc. And just through different conversations, you get to learn their personalities. And so that helps me because I know like, okay, like, yes, I know like these guys will talk kind of regardless. This is a good guy to talk to if I want to do more so a feature story. This one's like to talk to if I really need something to talk about, like what went wrong, and they're open to that conversation. So you get to really learn personalities and yeah, like who will answer questions, who isn't, you know, like who isn't as open to it, because which is totally fine. Like not all guys are. And just kind of like who has takes that leadership role. But yeah, it's been cool to just kind of really, they get to know you too. And that's kind of like a part of it, of like kind of being able to form that relationship. So like, especially when we're on the road or whatever, I try to talk to guys, like, even if it's just for a couple minutes about like something not basketball related. So it's not always me just going to them for something I need for a story. It's trying to
something transactional.
Right. Exactly. Because they are aware of that, obviously. So it's like kind of finding that balance. And I think through that, and then them seeing me constantly, it helps really build that relationship and that rapport.
You guys want to know how long it's been since I was a journalism major? I almost was like, Kelsey, who have you found that you've had a really good relationship with? Just name some of your sources. So it's been a minute.
I get it.
I sold out a long time ago. I lost all my journalistic integrity, clearly.
I definitely get what you're talking about, though, from a relationship building standpoint. I mean, even Carter and myself doing this podcast for so long, he knows which games not to message me with angst over. Like, if there's a loss to the Toronto Raptors, he knows, you know what, this is just not a night to talk to Justin.
It's not a poke the bear night, because Justin's going to be in his feelings. And I really like my place as the resident angster of the duo.
Yeah, when I start angsting, I feel like it concerns people more, and sometimes it's just I just have like a healthy concern.
It's not fair. It's not fair to you. We make you be the optimist too much, Justin.
You know what? It's my burden, but you know what? At least I have a role. At least I have a place in this little ecosystem. But speaking of your features, Kelsey, you did a great one on Evan Mobley and kind of the work that he's been putting in behind the scenes. I had tweeted this out this weekend as well, but over the last 30 games, pretty big sample size, Evan Mobley averaging 18.8 points per game, and it hasn't come at the expense of anybody else. We have Mitchell at 24.4 points per game, Garland at 22.6, Allen is averaging just shy of 16 points per game over the same stretch. That's 82 points per game from the core four. But obviously, Evan Mobley's growth has been one of the most exciting things. And what do you kind of see, looking at how far he's come already over the last 2 years and what's ahead of us? What do you see as kind of the biggest opportunity for growth for Evan Mobley this season?
Yeah, I think it's continuing to build on what he's shown already, the aggressiveness aspect of it, and instead of like how he just looks for those opportunities to score. And you know, when he attacks the lane, it causes opposing defenses to have to collapse, and then it opens up other opportunities, which I think is a really good thing for the Cavs offense as a whole. But I also think another like step, and we've talked about it before, is just his growth from the perimeter. He has the confidence to take them, and he has this season. I think we've seen different games where he's taken them in really big moments and then he doesn't have that fear to take them, but it's building that consistency factor. And so that it is, a part of his game on a more consistent basis, I think. But I mean, this season, like, he's taken that leap that even after an explosive, I think, rookie season and just how impactful he was on both ends of the floor last year, this season, he's just kind of found a level of comfort and his place in the league and with the Cavs and just kind of knowing where he's at. But yeah, like kind of like what I wrote in that feature was that like he sort of made a change come the new year, and not that he wasn't doing it, he did it over the summer because he put on a lot of muscle and put in a lot of effort this summer to like in the weight room. But come the new year in 2023, he added that more in on a consistent basis. And it was something he did on his own, and we've seen that play off because he can now handle contact when he is fighting like downhill and he's getting to the free throw line some more. He's handling guys better on the defensive end too, especially as he's playing more at the 5 without Jarrett. He's able to handle that a little bit better. So I think those are all just elements that have, at different moments really peaked, and now it's putting it all together, especially as we get into playoffs. And the fourth quarter Ev that they like to call it will come out because he really has shown that he can like be so aggressive and so important in fourth quarters and just make an impact in tons of different ways. It doesn't always have to be scoring, but it can be that defensive effort, that can be that extra pass, it can be just being a person down there that they have to guard so it opens up somebody else. There's just kind of different factors that he can just have an effect on the game, and I think is really going to be important for the Cavs down these last 9 games and then the postseason as well.
Well, it's important that they know that Evan Mobley is important in the fourth quarter, because I think Justin and I have both talked quite a bit about how when they have had struggles in some close games, especially on the road, it's been when the guards just kind of break the offense and play a little bit of hero ball, and like the more touches Mobley gets in those quarters, it feels like there's a pretty direct correlation to winning. So it's not just his scoring, it's his playmaking, it's his gravity, it's his feel. But man, it really does feel like he's putting it together in a major way. And it's not just beating. I thought this year was going to be the just beat mismatches more year, and it's not that. He's killing dudes that are his size. He's attacking players who are defensive player of the year candidates confidently, and like that is just not something I thought we'd see this year.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, I kind of agree. I think a lot of it just kind of came from when he had those opportunities and then he took them and saw how he can handle them. He was like, oh, okay, I got this, and so it was, I think it really was a confidence thing of like last year, you're kind of learning a ton about the league, you're seeing guys for the first time, second time, etc. But now that he's been in the league for a full year, had an off season, there's been a lot of just prep and growth in that aspect of kind of knowing how to prepare for the league. And I think really to that extra effort, like he knows how important it is for him to be strong, and so he can handle those bigger guys. And I just think that like that effort and that knowledge that that's such an important factor is playing into all of this, because he took it upon himself. So I think it's cool to see that the jump this year is kind of maybe not what we were expecting per se, but like he took the leap earlier than maybe we had thought.
Yeah, this is so far ahead of, and Carter and I were insanely high on him coming into the draft, but this is so far ahead of what we expected offensively, especially with like Donovan Mitchell now being added to this. And I don't think it's a coincidence that now that Mobley is increasing his scoring and his usage, like that it's helping everybody else out, because it really does seem to make things easier. And you mentioned in your piece that JB said that Mobley's getting more aggressive hunting for opportunities now that he's stronger. You kind of feel like you mentioned how Evan getting a little more confidence is expanding what he's willing to do on the court. You kind of sense that it's a two-way street where JB's like, well, I have this section of the playbook that is ready for you, and as soon as you start showing the skill set, I'm going to put a little more on your plate. I'm just going to keep putting more and more on your plate until we see that you can handle it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, JB knows that like Evan has to be involved offensively for this to succeed the way that they want to. You know, he's kind of talked about all season how like to get where they want to go, Evan's going to be that guy. So in order to do that, like he has to be involved offensively. He has to be like strong defensively as he has been. But it's also putting both sides together. And I think that's what we're seeing now is it's kind of that consistency of putting it together on both ends of the floor and having that impact. And so it's allowing JB to create those opportunities for Evan and he's taking advantage of those opportunities. So I think it's kind of like like you said, it's a two-way street, but it's a confidence factor and a trust factor both sides.
One thing I wanted to note is I do think that both Evan and Jarrett could use a heck of a lot more credit for how well this offense functions. If I were to tell you that the only above average 3-point shooters on the team this season would be Donnie, Darius, and Isaac, that are,
Karras.
And Karras.
Don't you dare leave him out.
We're gonna talk more Karras because my goodness, he's been cooking. But like if you told me that the shooting would be this rough, that that they would be playing so much Lamar Stevens, that I really would have said best offense we would have seen is like maybe 15th or 16th, and they're 9th right now at scoring the ball. And I feel like the guards get all the credit right now. But the fact that Mobley has been able to up his efficiency and his volume feels so important on that front.
100%. And I think too, I was interesting. Forget, was it the last game or it was recent game where they had like 78 points in the paint, and they shot 4 or 19 from 3, and it was like that they won. And so it was like obviously they're struggling, but yeah, I think just they know that they can win games in the paint on both ends of the floor, not only defending, protecting the rim, protecting the paint, but getting downhill, getting to the rim, because of their bigs and Jarrett and Evan, and just how like dynamic and like dominant they both are down there. Like they can take advantage of that. And so when they are struggling from 3, they really do give themselves a shot because they are so successful like in the paint. So, but it is kind of a crazy like thing to think about it's so effective.
Our boy Ziggy on Twitter, a longtime Cavs Twitter friend, he tweeted this not after the Washington game, but a game like I think a week ago. But the Cavs at that point were 4-3 in games where they made 7 or less threes and shot 26% or less from distance. And now I believe they are now 5-3.
Wow.
And I can add to
that's
that, Carter,
nuts.
There was a great stat, Chris Manning from Locked On Cavs shout out today, which is the Cavs are 3-0 this year when Donovan Mitchell doesn't make a 3.
That's nuts.
That's insane.
And I do feel like some credit also needs to go to JB in this spot, because as the season progressed, we've seen some of these games where it's third game in 4 nights. The Washington game was another one of those nights where it's okay. We kind of understand we're not going to have our legs. We're probably not going to have a great 3-point shooting night. So we're really going to just kind of make it a point of emphasis to attack the rim, and we'll still take the open threes if they're there, but just understanding we need to get high percentage looks. And I think as the season's gone on, they've gotten better and better at handling that. But it's funny, like we're getting into award season. Carter and I have been talking about it a bit, but
I'm already getting pre-worked up, Justin. I thought I was better than this now. I'm not. I really thought I'd hit some level of clarity, but award season this year, I'm going to get a little worked up.
It's just funny because you look at, okay, the Cavs don't have a lot of shooting. They're playing an unconventional lineup with 2 big men that aren't good shooters, but they still have a top 10 offense in a time where the standards of what a good offense is are higher than ever. They have a great defense, but yet you don't get any real credit for JB. You don't get credit for the bigs. Like you don't hear them on all defensive teams. Apparently it's Garland and Mitchell that are raising the offense, but only one of them got to be an all-star. Like it's funny. There's just so many logical contradictions here that I'm pre-annoyed, as Carter put it.
Oh yes. I'll tell you the number one thing I got my eye on. It's the all defensive teams. I got a bad feeling. I think I'm worried. I have these concerns that the Jarrett Evan thing, they're going to get played off each other and get boxed out of awards as a result of it. And I'm going to be grumpy. If this team finishes with the best defense in the league and does not have at least one of those dudes on an all-defense team, we riot.
Yeah, we take to the streets.
We burn Utica to the ground.
I do want to circle back before we get way too sidetracked on hypothetical things that haven't even occurred, which, I mean, that's
no, it's healthy. It's healthy to do this.
That's basically what Twitter is. It's, oh my God, like if the Cavs fall to the play-in conversations in January before something's actually occurred. But no, I want to circle back to what you were talking about, how everyone just kind of understands that Evan Mobley is going to need to take a leap in order for this team to get where they want to go. And it really does seem from the outside like the teammates are pushing for him to do more, and they're also supportive. Do you think that there's going to be growing pains along the way? Like, do you get the sense talking to guys as Mobley takes on more usage, that other guys that might lose a little bit of usage in the process? Do you think there's going to be some growing pains there, or do you think this is going to be kind of continue to be a harmonious fit, similar to what we saw with the Warriors core, which as guys take on more responsibilities, it opens up things for the rest of the core?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there probably is like a good balance of both, like a little bit of growing pains, because again, it's just like, because Evan is so young and it is just like, this is just his second year in the league. So there's kind of just naturally growing pains through that. But I think we've seen how like his fit specifically is really, he fits so well next to guys like Darius, honestly, and Donovan too. Like, he's playing really well next to Jarrett. There is just kind of a flow there and a nice fit that they're able to sort of work through any of those growing pains kind of on the fly. And because those other guys have more experience, have been in the league longer, they can kind of help sort of smooth that over, I think. So I think like there's a really good opportunity for there to be a nice balance, just kind of like of fit, but also allowing Evan that space, but it not being like a detrimental thing at all, because I don't see Evan like as his usage goes up, like it being just like a bad thing, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah.
That like takes a step backwards. It's just finding that like comfortability factor and just the confidence factor. But he has the guys around him and the trust of everybody that I think that plays a really big factor into it too. To do so, and there's that like a will and a desire from him as well to like be the best he can be, and I think that really fuels a lot of that. So I think there's kind of this mentality to that he can succeed and he will succeed, and I think that will help kind of smooth anything over kind of through the process.
The one thing that question made me think about, Justin, is like there might not be growing pains for the team, but there might be some growing pains in terms of like our expectations as fans of what this team's supposed to be doing. Like I've been griping for the past 3 months about bench scoring production, and I do think it's probably important that we need to remind ourselves that like attempts are kind of a zero-sum game. Like if we want Mobley to get more shot attempts, and we don't want Donnie or Darius to shoot less, because I don't really want them to shoot less, and we know Jarrett's going to get his 12 or 13 attempts a game, just being Jarrett Allen by default. Like the reality is, like, we might not actually be asking our role players to be scoring more. We just might be asking them to do more with the few opportunities they have. Like you have the stat that the core of the last 30 games is averaging 82 points a game. Like that's an enormous share. That's an enormous share of a team's points per game. So unless this team,
me when I'm playing 2K with the Cavs.
Yeah, with your stupid prorated stats, whatever it may be, like like the only real road to like them like not having one of the lower scoring benches in the league is probably just going to be them playing way faster than they are right now. And I sure don't get the impression JB's super interested in that. So, like, that might be a little bit of a reframing of expectations we have to have, where we need to maybe be a little less focused on that bench points per game and maybe a bit more focused on the bench true shooting percentage, the bench plus minus. Like, those kind of stats might end up mattering a lot more than the volume stuff.
Yeah, I can certainly see that being possible. And I do think the personalities of the core, like, that's Carter, you mentioned this recently, even with Jared Allen, like, just the fact that he's so okay with his role, I think is something that's incredibly undervalued. Like,
no unhappy IG stories out of our boy.
Like, he's probably a top 5-7 center in the game, and like all-star caliber, and he's happy with it. And I think, like, Darius is a pass first guy, right? And that's conducive to what they're trying to build. And I think even what Donovan Mitchell went through in Utah, where he was playing on a team that had like the best offensive rating, near like top record in the Western Conference. He's playing with a big man that's one-dimensional, but is so great at that one dimension that it really worked. But he saw, like, that you need a little bit more. You need more versatility in the playoffs. So he understands the importance of getting Evan Mobley going, to get Evan Mobley to expand his game, and how much easier that's going to make his life. So I really do think it's like we got these guys all kind of at the perfect time. And
a bunch of nice young men, one might call them.
A bunch of nice young men. It's really something that I don't think we should take for granted. And it really does seem like the biggest thing we wanted to learn from this season was, does this core work? And it seems like the core works, doesn't it, Kelsey?
I really think so. I think, I think we've seen it kind of throughout the season. Like, there was going to be that question when Donovan came in of like how he fits into everything. And there was going to be a little bit of time where there was a question, but I think he found a way to assimilate so quickly into everything that it just flowed so naturally. And I think a lot of it was his mentality coming in of like, I want to do what is best for the team, and I want to help. Like, so his defensive effort and like his like attention to detail and that. And then Darius, knowing that his role is going to change a little bit with Donovan next to him, but it's actually a good thing because now he doesn't have to be not only the top scorer and facilitator and finding everybody. Like, he can split that up, and Donovan can take some of that responsibility. And I just think there's a really nice core. They've found their fit throughout the season and like a flow. And I just think like that's what the season really was about. Like you said, was to let these guys grow together. Let's see how it all plays out, and take the steps forward. And that's what we've seen throughout the season. And it's really been like, I think, kind of exceeded expectations in that sense of like how fast it happened. And they wrote out the bumps. And like, I think of that January schedule was insane. And like they figured that out, and got through it. And now there's, through February through March, they're really showing and turning it up and raising their level. And I just think they're finding a consistency. And I think that's really important, especially for right now.
Yeah, it goes to show you just like how valuable the support of a good teammate can be. And we know that well from the support we get from Zoom. Support from this podcast and the following message comes from Zoom. 500,000 businesses connect using Zoom, a single platform for phone, chat, workspaces, events, apps, and video. Zoom enables real-time collaboration for teams around the globe. Zoom, how the world connects. Carter, nice. I saw your face as soon as I said the word support.
Well, it's funny. I was getting ready to interject. And I was like, I'll bet Justin's setting up an ad read. I really shouldn't.
The funny thing was, I saw your mouth open and I was like, oh, Carter's going to say something. I can't go into my ad read. So we just had that little awkward delay.
That was bad. That was bad teamwork out of me. I think I landed myself in no man's land, and that's on me. And we watch the tape, we get better.
We need the chemistry to be better going into the playoffs, Carter. Certainly the Cavs chemistry is looking much, much better heading into the playoffs. They've won a good clip of their games recently. And
Kelsey's talk about them finding their consistency. Like, I think that it's getting lost because like I do think there is a certain percentage of the fan base that rightfully wants to go big game hunting. They want to, they want to knock out a fully healthy Celtics team or a fully healthy Sixers team, and they didn't win those games, right? Like obviously the Cavs did get a win against a Celtics team that was coming off a double OT, but like they haven't had that signature win. But I do think, to that point, Kelsey, like the fact that they are beating the snot out of teams they should beat right now, they were not doing that in January. Like I know that the schedule was hard, but they were not in a spot where they were playing their third game in 4 nights against a team they should win. They just lost those games, and I think that that's why January was so disappointing. Was like, okay, I get it that you're going to lose a few schedule games and that it's a really rough stretch, but like you're losing to teams that you just shouldn't lose to, and they're not, a lot of these games against the Wizards of the world, they're not even in doubt, and then even when they do come out flat like they did against the Hornets, by mid fourth quarter I was like, Cavs are 500% winning this game.
Yeah, I think it's really important, kind of like you said. Even like I think about that Sixers game, like that was a tough one, coming back from that road trip, second night of a back-to-back, and for them to, I mean, they did have a 13-point lead, so which honestly I was surprised about, and then they did obviously collapse, but like it showed that that resiliency and that consistency is there. But yeah, I think like you said, like they're taking advantage of the teams they need to, and then really putting up a solid effort for the most part against teams that are above them in the standings, that are really good benchmarks for them of like, okay, here's where we go next. Here's how we grow. Here is like how we be better. And I think it was interesting because like they were all really disappointed after that Sixers loss, because they felt like they could have won. And I think that's a really important factor in all of this too, because that would have been super easy, even like us, like to just be like, it's a schedule loss. Like we just were on the road for 9 days and a second night of a back-to-back, like without Jarrett, like, right. Yeah. I was and like that would have been really easy to just kind of lay down. And I think now their headspace is so different in that sense of like, no, like we really do have a shot and we want to give this a shot. And they showed for the most part, they could have, and if they were fully healthy or something just went a little bit different, they had a chance. So I don't know. Yeah, I think they're really just showcasing like a shift, a mindset shift down this stretch of the importance of these games and the matchups, who they're playing against, just the different level of caliber of teams, and taking care of business per se, like when they need to. So I think it's a good shift for them.
Yeah, I mean, they are starting to put it together, and this is what you want to see, right? Like you want to have positive momentum heading into the playoffs, because even though it doesn't necessarily transfer over, I mean, it certainly feels better than having negative momentum. And one of the guys that seems to have really had a shift is Karis LeVert lately. And, Ricky Rubio, to his credit too, right? Like I think Ricky's been playing better, but what I'm seeing out of Karis is probably the most comfortable I've seen him in a Cavs jersey. Like it's not him taking the shots he was taking at the start of the year and just being on a hot streak, right? Like he seems to know where he's supposed to be on both ends of the floor. When he is getting his offense off, like he's not hanging on to the ball for an excessive period of time or anything like that. He's just making the right decisions out there and being way more assertive. Have you sensed a shift from Karis, either in talking to him or the people around him? Because this definitely seems like his best basketball in a Cavs jersey.
Yeah, 100%. So I actually ended up writing about this morning because I was kind of looking over some things and like stats and just kind of checking in on everything.
Is it published? Because I'll feel bad if it's published.
It's okay, but it published at like noon, so it's fine. No worries.
Yeah, I had a busy day.
Justin, a dutiful professional, is not reading The Athletic while he's working, and I respect that about you, Justin.
I had the day off, but proceed.
It's all good. No, seriously, I think he talked about recently about he's switched into playoff mode and like his mindset. So mentally, physically, that's where his headspace is at. And I think we've really been seeing that play out recently. And, throughout this whole season, his role has changed so much. He hasn't had a consistent role. We went from starting to then coming off the bench. He was playing in closing minutes, then he was not in other games, wasn't closing. He was a defensive stopper or like an offensive spark, just kind of all over the place. But I think through this stretch recently, he's just kind of found a way to make all of those elements work, and kind of whatever is necessary that JV needs on a night by night basis, that's what he's able to do. And he's just kind of upped his game to another level. I think a lot of his work from the summer, his conditioning, his diet change has really played off really well recently. Kind of has been throughout the whole season, but he's now just seeing the effects of it just later on in the season because he's healthy and he's stayed healthy. And I think a thing that has been really noticeable for me recently is his defensive presence. Like, he has just been so effective on the defensive end of the floor with his matchups. He's causing deflections and getting steals. I think he has 1.9 deflections per game, which I think is just below Jarrett. And so it's like he's so effective down there and just being pesky and just finding ways to be in people's space and be really present. And I think that's really important because we know what he can do as a scorer, and he's shown that, and they need that in certain moments. But being able to be effective on both ends of the floor, be that two-way guy that is putting that in defensive presence is really important for the Cavs, I think, especially as we go down the stretch. But I think also, I think there's been a couple of times, and I think of that, his pass to Evan, actually, in the game against Washington, the last game they played. Was that Washington?
Yeah, it was Washington.
Okay.
It was around 3 months ago. So,
right. Like, I was shocked. Like, it was an insane pass to find Evan for a dunk. But like, it was just like to see that read, to make that decision is just really important. And so not only does he know when to find his shots and he knows how to get to his spots, but he's really creating for others. And I think that balance has been playing out really, really well. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like he's really found a footing recently, especially, and just kind of, he's gone through the ups and downs. February wasn't a good month for him, but March he's having some really, really solid numbers on the offensive end. And I just think he's found a groove, and it's a great time, obviously, that he's made this mental shift through for the last 9 games and then into playoffs.
We should tell Karis to be in playoff mode all the time, because this is a lot of fun. I mean, just to speak to the month over month splits, last month in February, he averaged 6.8 points per game on 40% field goal shooting, 22% 3-point shooting, and had a pretty good assist to turnover ratio still, but nothing special. And then in March, it's bananas. He's averaging 14 on 50-47 splits, 4 assists a game to only 1.3 turnovers. And to your point about the deflections, he's at 1.8 steals a game. And when you're looking at what this Cavs defense can do, the great luxury of how strong this team defensively is you can gamble a little bit. You can try to get one over on one of these more undisciplined teams. Those poor Hornets in that game, in that second game was borderline bullying. And he's really been an opportunist. And I remember when the Cavs traded for him, that was something we locked in on right away, because the Cavs had spent like a cool 3 seasons without anyone who stole the ball ever. And you're really starting to see him leverage quick hands in those moments, and that's he doesn't have to do that much more. Like, I don't like it's kind of with Karis, to me, it's about the good gambles versus the bad ones. Like, no, you don't need to close out so recklessly on that 3-point shooter, but you can just play the passing lanes and trust that that your teammates will protect you on the back end. Everything's coming together for him right now. I think I've been as critical of Karis as anyone, in the Cavs podcast community, which we got around 46 of them now. But you know, it like I'm so thrilled to be eating crow. After the last
too.
month. Shut up.
I'm thrilled to be on the right side of history here, Carter.
Yeah, I mean, I still think he's got a lot to prove in the postseason. You know, he is, but like he is. These are not just. It's not just against the teams that aren't doing so well that he's performing well. He had 16-4 against Miami. He had 24-6 against Philly. Really, the only reason they were in that game.
Exactly.
And again, like it's not just the games where Donnie's sitting, or Darius is sitting that he's making an impact right now. He's really helping, and it's really, really important for this team that, you know, again, I've said this multiple times. You can count on there being a player in your rotation that when you get to a certain playoff series, you go, they're not going to work in this series. So like JB needs as many reliable options as he can get heading into the postseason, even if it's in the first round.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm so excited by what Karras is doing, and like you said, Carter, it's nice that he's doing it with Garland and Mitchell in the lineup, with Ricky playing well. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he's playing well with Jetty getting a little more consistent opportunity.
A little more space.
Jetty's been given the opportunity to play through some mistakes. He had good and bad moments against the Sixers, and Karras can run a spread pick and roll really, really well. Like I think that's one of his greatest strengths. So that's why I've always been a believer that if the Cavs are able to add more shooting, like I feel good about his role coming in off the bench, and feel great about his contributions right now. And Kelsey, I want to get your thoughts as Karras and the Cavs go to his former stomping grounds in Brooklyn. I don't think there's a team that Carter and I disagree on more than the Brooklyn Nets. And I even in our Discord, there's a lot of reverence still being given to the Nets. And I think it's because they have so many smart, long players that can all shoot. And the Cavs have had trouble with teams with length. And they've had troubles with teams that can play 5 out.
I can't believe I'm giving them respect, Justin. Thanks for just making my argument for me, buddy.
So I understand that side of the coin. The other side of the coin is this is a team that is 6-10 since trading Kevin Durant in the Bridges era. They are 25th in net rating over that time, 27th in offensive rating. I'm feeling pretty confident going into these games, but I'm curious how you feel going into these 2 games against Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to feel because the Cavs still have had some issues on the road, and like they're not fully solved, you know, like gotten better, but they haven't been fully rectified. But like you said, the length worries me because they have really struggled with that throughout the season, and just different teams have given them issues that have that length. And but I think part of what I think on the flip side of that is the Cavs do have that consistency factor as a unit, and they have that chemistry that's really, I think, going to play into their favor. And I think they also understand the stakes of these games because of where they are in the season with matchups with potentially, like, you know, just they could see depending on how this list works out. I think the Nets are at 6 at the moment, but like they could move up potentially. And, you know, I think like they're looking at it from that perspective of like, we can't take this for a joke because we have, you know, this could come back to bite us later down the line. So I am a little nervous about the length aspect. Like I said, I think that has been kind of a kryptonite in a sense throughout the season. And I think the Cavs have to figure out how to handle that length. And this is a good test, especially seeing them twice in 1 week. I think it'll be really interesting to look at kind of what changes from tomorrow's game to Thursday's game, because the little tweaks that are made, the little adjustments, and how that affects how they play defensively, how Brooklyn plays them, and how they respond to that. So I think it'll be a really good test. I think it's a really good, the timing is really good too, especially just where we're at.
I love this.
Yeah,
awesome. I think this is really valuable experience to have 3 days off heading into playing the same team in the same location twice. Like this is as close to kind of a playoff simulation as you're going to get. Like I just love it from a game plan standpoint because there's so many Cavs players that, you know, just haven't been to the playoffs. They haven't, like, people don't understand. You're not really making like a tailor-made game plan for each team in the regular season because there's just too many games. There's not practice time, right? Like being able to do this prep, I think is going to be so valuable for them. And I think looking at this team, like the best way to combat length is playing through the bigs. And that's something that they didn't do a great job of earlier in the season. And teams like Toronto and even Orlando, like that was a hard fought game because, you're still getting your footing of how you're using the bigs. And I certainly feel more confident going into this. I think they played great against Toronto in that recent game. Even without Fred VanVleet, but that just meant that they were even longer. But I feel good going into these games, and I feel a whole lot better hearing that Jared Allen has been upgraded to questionable and was a full participant in practice.
It feels like. Oh, go ahead, Kelsey.
Oh, I was just saying, taking steps forward, which is a good thing to have. They need that length, so they need Jared.
Yeah, but no goggles, guys. I really wanted to see. I wanted to see Jarrett coming out in full 80s garb. It's fine, and ultimately, like, I do think like this final 9 games to me is the greatest test in a lot of ways of the Cavs. Like it's a real money where your mouth is. Like, oh, you think you're consistent now? You think you figured out how to take care of business against teams you're better than? Well, here's 9 in a row of teams you're better than. To your point, Kelsey, like the Cavs are not crazy favorite. I think they're 2.5 point favorites tomorrow night right now, which, for a team that, the Cavs are up 4 games in the loss column on Brooklyn, with Brooklyn playing not great basketball, with the Cavs at rest advantage. That tells me that Vegas expects the game to be a little bit closer, at the least. But it is a like, hey, take care of your business. Make sure you hold the Knicks off, lock up that 4 spot, and like come in with some momentum. Like, obviously, I don't know like what the very end of season might look like. Like if they are locked in at 4 with 3 games to go, and Donnie's finger could use a couple games off. Like maybe they take their foot off the gas a little bit, but. Like, I think this team, like, assuming that isn't the case, assuming that things remain in flux all the way to the end, like, I genuinely think this team has a chance to rattle off 9 straight wins. These are 9 winnable games in a row. Now, it'll be very, very hard. 9-game win streaks do not grow on trees.
I was gonna say I'll take like a 7-2. That'd be fantastic.
I'll say this: I think anything less than 7-2 actually would be disappointing, based on the stretch they have. I think again. Barring anyone getting shut down for playoff prep and things like that, but if they're going full throttle all the way to the end, like I really think this is a chance to like put your stamp on the end of your season and come in hot, because like I think that if they kind of mess around and stumble into a first round playoff series, like that is not the juju I want against in a series that I think is going to be really tough against the New York Knicks. I really want to see this team be firing on all cylinders and taking care of their business, because all these games are winnable. Again, I think they will be favored in every single game down the stretch. Again, with that big caveat hanging over. So, I rarely go this hard on predicting success, but I think they've earned. I think they've earned it. I think they've earned it with their play over the last month and a half.
Yeah.
To your point, So I agree, because I think because so many of these guys don't have playoff experience either, they have to really succeed down the stretch, because this is the only kind of real prep per se, or something like a simulation of playoffs that they have. And it's not the same. Like we talked about in Miami of like, okay, yes, that was a look at what it could, like atmosphere wise, playing a team, like stealing a game at home, or stealing the game on the road, and then like splitting the series, like that was a good kind of little taste, but that's all it was. It's nothing like the actual thing. And so for like how inexperienced they are in that field of like, they need this end of season stretch to go well to prepare them for, like you said, like I think that Knicks matchup's going to be really tough. That the Knicks environment in a playoff setting is going to be really tough. And so this is all really good prep for them to really be in that headspace, to be in the right mindset heading into the playoffs. So I don't know. I agree. I mean, I think they really do need to kind of keep their focus where it's at, and that like to end the season on a really high note to help, with any success in the postseason.
Let the record show Kelsey agrees with the 9-game win streak in the season. Woo!
9-game win
just
streak.
kidding. Actually, I guess it would be 10. It would be 10.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Again, they played 3 months ago. That was their last game. So I don't even remember it.
The other thing about the way that this schedule's kind of worked out is, especially with this being a young team, like there's always the rest versus rust debate, and the Cavs don't have any back-to-backs down the stretch. I was looking at Boston's schedule because they're sliding, and now that's like a fringe possibility to pass them for the 3 seed. They're 4-5 in their last 9 games. If they go 4-5 the rest of the way, Cavs just need to go 8-1 with that tiebreaker.
They just got to go 8-1.
They just got to go 8-1 guys.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Write it off. Already chalk it up.
Lock it in.
But the thing about the schedule is, if they take care of business, they're going to be able to rest in third and fourth quarters against these teams, right? You're going to be able to go deeper in your bench. You can see, hey, does Danny Green have something that he can give? I mean, seeing him out there in the Washington game, I think he's still moving around pretty slow. But even if you're trying to,
who's not? Our boy Dylan Windler
looks great out there. Maybe you give Sam Merrill a look, right? Like if you are earning minutes that aren't high leverage, you get to mess around a little bit, right? You get to try other combinations. And I think having that focus going into these games and looking to make a statement early on, like that is the marker of a good playoff team, right? The one that flips the switch when you need to, right? Like that was one of the most fun things of the last kind of playoff era, was going into a series and then like in the first quarter, it's just flying death machine. Kyrie's throwing the ball off the backboard to LeBron, dunking in like transition. Like that was so much fun. And I think the Cavs do have that killer gear. And the other thing we need to find out is, are they better on the road than their record? The numbers say it. They have the 3rd best net rating in the league on the road. Yet when you look at every team around them on that list, they all have winning records except for the Cavs, because they've just not been good in the clutch on the road. So I think going 3-1 on that last road trip was a step in the right direction, but they need to continue to prove that, hey, we are better than our record. It doesn't matter that we've had those troubles in the past, because we can correct that for the future. It doesn't have to be an indicator that this is going to be an issue in the playoffs. But in all likelihood, like if you're playing the Knicks are one of the best road teams in the league. Like they're probably going to win a game in Cleveland, and you're going to need to win a game in Madison Square Garden, if I had to guess.
That stressed me out. I didn't like that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carter. I'm sorry to do that to you. But Kelsey,
I'm
do you want to make
fragile
any?
right
Well, I guess you've already made the prediction of 9-0, right? We don't have to
lock it in.
Do in Brooklyn.
They're gonna come for me in the comments.
Oh, I hope so. But
yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know if I have anything else to add to that, but yeah, we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that for the episode as well. So other than the article that I so rudely ignored this afternoon and we'll read later this evening.
While you weren't working.
Yeah. What else you got coming up that you want our listeners to know about it? And of course, you guys subscribe to The Athletic. Do it. It's great coverage.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am working on a really fun story, I think, on Darius. That is like a big feature for hopefully for playoffs. So it's in the works. We are chugging away at it. And something also for the postseason that I can't share just yet, but is coming. So keep an eye out for something fun.
Teaser.
It's a great tease. I cannot wait. I'm excited for any Darius features. I just love everything about that guy and the way that he plays. So I'm so excited. This is going to sound stupid, but I'm ready for the hurt that's going to come in this playoffs. Like at some point the Cavs are going to lose and it's going to really hurt. But like, that's what fandom's about. It's about like having a team that you really care about. It hurts and you have these shared experiences with other fans. Like I'm so ready to add another year like 2009, where you know what? Cavs were better than I thought. Oh my God, here we go. And they're like, it comes up short, but that's part of the process. That's part of becoming a contender. I'm ready. I'm ready for the fun. I'm ready for the hurt. I'm ready for it all. I can't wait.
No question about it. He's ready to get hurt again.
Amazing.
And on that note, big thanks to Kelsey Russo. Make sure you guys are subscribing to The Athletic. Following her on Twitter at Kelsey Russo. 2 Ys. I thought Carter made a typo in your
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I went to your solo because I thought you were taking us home. Never cast such an aspersion against me. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't check the ticker at the beginning because it was wrong.
Follow her on Twitter at Kelsey Russo. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell so you know when we're going live. Big thanks to everyone that's hung around for the 6 years as well. I can't believe it's been 6 years of this podcast. That is absolutely insane. So whether you've been here since the beginning or whether this is your first episode listening, we really, really do appreciate you guys. If you want to support the podcast, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of the Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of that review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.